Warami Mitiga, Budri Nawunya. Yugunai Dark and Young Ngurrawa. Hello friend, good to see you. Today I'm on Dark and Young country. And I'm here today to do a love-hate comparison video. 5 things I love about the Pajero and 5 things I hate about it. And I have to tell you, this was a hard one for me to work out because although I could go on with a list as long as my arm for things I love about it, it's actually hard to find things that I hated about it. But I did manage to get 5 things, and if you stick around, I'll give you a little bonus one at the end of it as well. So I'll start off at number 5, and this is going to be the first thing I hate about the Pajero. And to be honest, that's the fuel economy. You know, at the end of the day, I get between 14 and 15 litres per 100 k's loaded up like it generally is day to day. Now remember, this is my daily driver, not just an off-roader. So everything that's in this car when I go on a trip, short of the mattress and the extra water and whatnot, is in here all the time. The fridge, the dual battery system, the roof platform, the awnings, all that stuff. It's always on the car. And I get around about 14 to 15 litres per 100 kilometres. Also remember, it's a 3.5 litre V6 petrol motor, not a diesel. But in saying that, 14 to 15 litres per 100 for a 2.5 tonne vehicle, 3.5 litre V6 petty, isn't all that bad when you look at some of the patrols and things like that, chewing 20 litres plus per 100. Even diesel vehicles, when they're loaded up, pushing what I am or more even. So 14 to 15 per 100 overall isn't too bad, but it is still quite thirsty and does cost a bit. The 5th thing that I love about the Pajero, well, that's the comfort. In general, for a long drive on or off road, I find it to be a really comfortable car. It drives like a sedan. It really is a nice, comfortable vehicle to do long trips in. And my son, he's 6 foot plus. He's taller than me now, and he sits in the middle row. And he still says that it's quite comfortable. He's got enough leg room. He's got enough headroom. The headroom in the front's amazing. I've got bloody half a foot or more clearance between my head and the roof. It's bloody great. I love it. So comfort is my 5th love about the car. And for long drives, just around town, even with the bad back, it generally holds up pretty good. You know, I can do a 3-hour drive in this and not be in absolute agony when I get out of it. Yeah, I might be in some pain, but I can do a decent trip in this and not be in absolute agony. So number 5 for love is the comfort of the car. Number 4 in the hate market. This is the lack of aftermarket parts. Now don't get me wrong, there's companies out there that make it. I can go to ARB, I can go to all those other different places and I can get bull bars and steps and sliders and roof racks and whatever else. I can get that stuff. But for example, with the aftermarket airboxes, you see everybody spouting on, get a snorkel on that and make sure you do up your airbox at the same time. Because I know the stock ones in these aren't real crash right. They let dirt in and that. So everyone's carrying on, do up your airbox, get a better airbox. No one really makes them. I do know Steve from Patron is looking to produce some. I'm not 100% sure if they will suit mine or not, or whether they're only going to be suiting the diesel variants. So that's something that I'm unsure about at the moment. But Patron is trying to do some stuff. There are a few smaller companies out there pushing products and trying to come up with a range of products for the Pajeros. Again, Patron, and you've also got Dirt Boy 4x4, John, another top bloke. John does the hidden winch cradles. So with the Gen 3s and 4s, even if you've got your fiberglass front bumper, you can still mount the winch cradle in there and have a winch in your vehicle. I do hope to get one of these one day to go with the aluminium bar on this. And Dirt Boy 4x4 is also doing steps and sliders for them now as well. So that's something else I'm looking toward doing. The main thing Patron has started off with anyway is a diff drop. For those of us with independent suspension like on the Pajero, the diff drop, effectively it acts like a body lift on a body on frame vehicle. Whereas the Pajeros, the Gen 3s and 4s being a monocoque, we don't have that option to do a body lift. So we do a diff drop, gives us basically the same effect. So Performance is doing those, and I think the other one that does them, I'm not sure if he is still or not, is Mr. Pajero over in WA. Number 4, things I love about the Pajero. Super Select 2. Now some might be thinking, why haven't you lifted this up higher? Well, it's a great thing. I absolutely love it. It came down to a point of things that I love and hate and where certain things want to sit. Super Select 2 is great. For those of you that don't know, Super Select 2 gives you the options of 2 high, 4 high locked center, or 4 low locked center. So the locked center effectively is your standard four-wheel drive mode, what you would have in any other real four-wheel drive, where your front and rear tyres spin at exactly the same speed, 50% of power front and rear. That's no good on paved roads, as any four-wheel driver would know. It's no good on hard surfaces and paved roads. With the 4 high on the Pajero, without the lock center, it is effectively an all-wheel drive system. So, for example, coming out here today, I've just thrown it in 4 high and just cruised up. It gives me that extra traction, it stops the wheel spinning, things like that. But it doesn't bind up your driveline or anything like that if you're on a hard surface. So this allows you, when towing or just driving day to day around town, you can run 4 high in a Pajero. Not the locked center modes, but yes, 4 high you can run in a Pajero. And I believe there's a few other vehicles now coming out with that system. So that's something I really do love about it, is that I do have that option, especially if I'm towing a trailer or it's wet and a little bit slippery or whatever it might be. I can drop it into 4 high, and I can do this at speeds of up to 80 kilometers an hour, according to the owner's manual. I just drop it into neutral and then change into 4 high, re-engage gear, and I'm off. Personally, I don't like doing that because I do get a bit of a grind, but I can do that. So Super Select 2 system is my 4th love with the Pajero. And it's a great system. It's been in the Pajero for quite a while now. Now, number 3. This is going to be a double-edged sword, because this is something I love about the Paj, but it's also something I hate. And I'll start with the hate side. And that's the motor and power. The 3.5 litre V6 petrol motor. It labours a lot when trying to do hills. For example, when I did the Ralston trip, Queen's birthday last year, going up along Bylong Valley Way, it's a 100 kilometre an hour zone, and I'm having to drop back into 3rd gear to actually be able to keep pace, and I'm sitting at about 4.5 to 5,000 RPM. So I'm pushing the motor pretty hard, trying to keep up to that 100k an hour speed limit. On steep hills, I find, especially in the higher gears at low RPMs, the Paj really, really struggles. Even on some of the ones just on the M1 motorway from Sydney to here, quite often I've got to drop it back into 4th or 3rd gear to push up the hills there. And they're not overly steep. So that's one thing I really hate about the motor and the driveline of the Pajero, is that when you're doing a longer trip and you've got high speed, in particular high speed steep hills, you've really got to drop back in the gears and give it the berries to get up that hill. But in saying that, the motor and power is also something I love about it. So we've touched on the Super Select section of the driveline. The motor and power works beautifully with it when you're off-road, because even in high range, it has plenty of power. You put your foot down and it gets up and goes, especially in a real low gear, like 1st or 2nd. It really does get up and go. When you drop it into low range, my God, it is just absolute crawl speed. It is brilliant. A lot of people with automatics, I find, seem to complain that the downhill in 1st gear low is too high. Now, I don't find that with the manual. I find that the engine braking and the control going downhill in 1st gear low is really nice in this, and it just allows me to crawl down really well. So, look, the get up and go of this thing, the power, the torque, just everything about this motor, in that sense, is absolutely beautiful. I love it. It's got that power there until you hit those steep hills. So that's number 3, love and hate. And I put that as number 3 so it can simply sit halfway. It's a great thing. It really is a great motor. And parts for these motors have been around for ages. I'm running the 6G74 motor. In the newer NP Pajero, they came out with a 3.8 litre, which is a 6G75. And then in the older Gen 2 Pajeros, and I believe the Gen 1s, they had the 6G72 3 litre versions. Now these motors are also Your block and your head effectively are the same in your Magnas, some of the Lancers, I think. They're in some of the Hyundai, like the Tucsons, and just a variety of different cars. These motors have been around for ages, and they're in a lot of different vehicles. So trying to find parts for them is not hard, especially if you go into a Wreckers or something like that. I do know there's some differences with the 6G74 from the Magna to the Gen 3 Pajeros, being that the Magnas are an east-west motor rather than a north-south motor like the Pajero. So I do know there's some differences there, plus the fact I believe the Magnas are front-wheel drive, not four-wheel drive. So let's move on to number 2, what I hate about the Pajero. That's the roof rack mounting system. On the NM, on my particular one, I have little clips where the black strips are across the top. There's 3 little clips underneath, and that's where the roof racks mount to them. Now, one of the reasons I don't like those is because it's not adjustable. So if I only wanted 2 racks on there, I have to set with the distance that they are. If I wanted to put the solar panel between them, I can't move them a couple of inches closer just to allow that. Whereas in the old rail system that you'd get on the sides, you can do that. The other thing I don't like about this style of mounting system is that it is only 3 flimsy little clips that your roof rack hooks onto on each side. So 1 per rack. And they're a flimsy little thing. So when you tie them down, I feel that they're just not a lot of strength. I've had no problems, and knock on wood, I don't have any problems. But I feel that they don't have a lot of strength. And when you get dirt and crap and whatnot building up underneath the feet for your roof racks, or even building up under those rails, then those clips and that start to rust out, and they become even weaker. So that's something I really don't like about it. I'm also noticing in that aspect that most of the backbone systems through Rhino and Frontrunner and everyone else that do backbone style systems for these, they do them for the NP style that have the factory side rails. And those factory side rails mount differently to what these do. So those ones won't suit my vehicle apparently, or I've got to do some more modifications and drill through the roof and that to make them suit. You also have the roof load capacity. And I've spoken about this previously in another video, but the Gen 3 and 4 Pajeros have a dynamic roof load rating of 100 kilos. So that is your roof racks, your platform, your awning, rooftop tent, whatever you want to put up there, maximum of 100 kilos. When you hit dirt roads, that drops by 30% on this style. If you're using the rail style, like I mentioned for the NPs and that, then that's supposed to drop, according to ProRack, by 50%. So even though the roof itself can hold 100 kilos, Mitsubishi say to drop it to 70 when you hit dirt roads. And then if you're using, for example, the ProRack system between those side rails, it goes down to only 50 kilos. So it's not a lot of roof load rating, but for what I use, it's fine. I'm not intending to carry lots of timber or put a rooftop tent on or any of that sort of thing. It's just my awning, my solar panel, etc. So for me, it's fine. Number 2 of what I love about the Pajero is the capability. Now, a lot of people will sit there and say that they're no good off-road because they're independent suspension, especially being independent all-round. Capability on these things is amazing. They will still get you pretty well everywhere and anywhere. The difference between having something like the Pajero with independent suspension all round when off-road and something like a Land Cruiser or a Patrol with solid front and rear is the fact that you've actually really got to try and look at your lines and know the fact that you're going to lift wheels, that you can't just walk through the big holes and things like that and just flex through it. You've got to really stop and look at your line and pick it and work out what's going to be the best, safest line for you, not just point and shoot like you can with a lot of the other stuff. So capability-wise, they're still a really capable vehicle. They've got a great, strong driveline. And again, back to the Super Select 2, the motor, the power. It's a really beautiful car, and it handles pretty well everything I throw at it. Yes, I've been stuck in it. Yes, I've needed to be on the end of a winch when we did Creek Road last year with the Patchformance meet. Yes, but that was my choice. I could have pushed it and tried to drive that. Everybody else that gave it some drove it. I didn't want to give it some. I didn't want to risk any breakages or anything like that. And it's not my style of driving. But they are a really capable vehicle. They drive really well on and off-road. So their ability off-road and their capability off-road is really good. Again, you know, with that first gear low range, at least in my manual, the downhill crawl is absolutely beautiful. It's nice and slow and controlled. Coming uphill, again, even if it's a really steep hill, just tap that accelerator and let it walk up that hill. And it does so with absolute ease. On-road, they drive like a normal car. They drive like a sedan. It doesn't feel like I'm driving a tank or a boat. You know, they are really nice to drive on-road. And this goes back to the comfort and everything that I mentioned in number 5. They are a really nice, really well-handling vehicle on and off-road. And for me, their capability is beautiful. They can tow. Yes, they're not the highest towing capacity. They can still carry a decent load. Yes, they're not the highest GVM. But for everything I want to do, this car, in its capabilities, is brilliant. Absolutely love it. Number one thing I hate. There it is. The number one thing I hate about the Pajero, in particular, mine. And that's that bloody rear bumper. For anybody that owns a Gen 3 or 4 Pajero, or maybe even some of the Gen 2s and that, I'm not too sure on them, but anybody that owns a Gen 3 or 4 Pajero knows that these rear bumpers are an absolute mongrel. I hate the thing. Absolutely hate it. They catch, when you step down off a rock or something like that, they'll catch. If you get a stick flick up under your tyre, it'll actually hook under the curve of the rear bumper and it will drag and it will rip the rear bumper out. I haven't had it rip off, but you see on mine where all the tail light's broken and everything else, and that's for that reason. These rear bumpers are a mongrel. And this again leads to the aftermarket parts side of things, is there's not a lot of people that do aftermarket rear bars for the Pajeros. And if they do, they're normally bloody expensive. Well, to be honest, half the size of that rear bar would be beautiful. Just enough to have a little bit of a step there and that, and put your tail lights in if that's what you need. So these rear bumpers are a real pain in the ass. I don't like them. They break easy, they scratch up, they dent up, and yeah, they're just not a good design in that aspect. So a lot of people that own the Gen 3s and 4s will vouch for the same thing. They don't like the rear bars. Number one in what I love about it though is its versatility. I can use it as a family car. I can use it as a daily driver. I can use it to go and get groceries and be a shopping trolley or a mall crawler. I can use it to do big trips, long trips. I can use it to go off-road. I can use it to get me to places like this. I can use the car to tow a trailer or a small caravan or something like that. I can use it to put a load of stuff in the back, moving house and things like that. I can use it for so many different things that I could never use the old Falcon for, or even the old work Hilux. You know, I could carry heaps with the Hilux, but I couldn't fit all the family in it, and still carry heaps, whereas the Pajero I can. It's number one is just its all-round versatility. I can do so much with it. It is such a bloody great car for a daily driver, for a family driver, to get out in the bush, to go and enjoy myself. It really is the most versatile and simple platform that I've ever had for a vehicle. I really do love it. So that's my number one love, is just its versatility. How versatile the car is, how nice, and how it does everything I need it to do. So guys, that's my top 5 love and hate items with the Pajero. Again, this is dedicated to mine, and these are my opinion. These are things that I love and hate about the car. What you love and hate about your Pajero, if you have one, might be completely different. What you love and hate about your own vehicle, whatever it might be completely different aspects to what I love and hate about this. We all have our own opinions. That's mine, what I love and hate about it. Now, as I said at the start of the video, I'm going to give you an extra bonus one of each at the end. So, my bonus hate about the Pajero is those big tail lights on there. They look great. I love how they look, but they don't work. Now, if you're watching from overseas, you might be sitting there thinking, why? Or even here in Australia, I didn't realise when I first bought them that they don't work. You might be thinking, why? Well, apparently, because of the positioning of the spare wheel on the back door, they're not ADR compliant. So I'm guessing it's a situation of what angle you can see the lights from. So that driver's side one is not ADR compliant with the positioning of the spare wheel on the back door. Now, I know this is the same with some of the Prados, and I think some of the Patrols have the same concept where that back wheel is off-centered, and that causes the top higher lights not to be ADR compliant, and therefore they're not wired up. That's something I hate. Look, even if they were wired up and not ADR compliant, we still have the tail lights down in the bumper with the brake light, the indicator, and our standard tail lights. I can't say why we couldn't have done that and still had the top lights working. I guess it saves a couple of bucks for Mitsubishi when they're building them. But I find if I'm towing, for example, and the lights on my trailer for some reason stop working, people can't see the lower tail lights on this car. And for that reason, they don't know if I'm braking, they don't know if I'm turning. I don't like the fact that I only have that option. Yes, I do have the brake light up in the door, but I don't like the fact that people can't see these bottom ones. And I think Mitsubishi should have still wired those ones in. Now, I know on eBay you can buy aftermarket tail lights to suit the NP. I'd rather the NM looking style. But I know you can buy the NP ones that are already wired up and they're just a plug and play kit. I'm looking to buy some of those myself, but I'm not 100% sure on the legalities of them. But at the end of the day, I can't see why they're a problem. If you have that option, for an additional option for people to see that you're braking and turning and things like that, I can't see why there's a problem with it. I guess with Mitsubishi, they just decided to save a couple of bucks rather than wiring them in. They just left them. So that's something that I really don't like about the back end there as a bonus. And as I mentioned with the rear bar, when that rear bar starts getting smashed up and your tail lights fall out or break or get submerged in water and you blow globes and things like that, well, then you've got no lights. Whereas those additional ones at the top would come in handy in that aspect. Now, my bonus love for the Pajero, and for mine in particular, is the styling. I love these flared wheel arches. I love the guard at the back, how it just sticks out and goes all the way to the back and matches in with the tail lights. I love the interior design of them. I really do love the styling on the Gen 3 Pajeros. I think it looks much better than the Gen 1 and 2. Don't get me wrong, Gen 1 and 2s are still gorgeous cars. So are the Gen 4s, but I really do like the styling on the Gen 3s. You know, this flared wheel arch at the front here, to me, it just looks like that wheel's meant to go right up and tuck up inside of it for hard off-road stuff. For the real rally-inspired look, that to me is what the styling on the Gen 3 is. And interior, it's sleek, it's smooth, it's rounded. There's no sort of square, sharp edges like I find the Gen 4s have. So interior-wise as well, styling, all round, interior and exterior on this car, I really do like it. I really do love the way it sits and the way it looks. They may not look the squarest, toughest, bulkiest, beastiest thing in the road, but you know, they're still, I think, a really nice looking car. Alrighty guys, so that's it for me. I really do hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, please leave a comment down below. Let me know what you love and hate about your vehicle. Give me your top 5, be it a Pajero or anything else. If you own a Pajero, do you agree with what I've said about my love and hate with this? Or is there something else that you might like or something else you might hate? I know some people hate the styling on these. I love it. So let me know in the comments below what you think. And if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Alright guys, Yanma Bujiri Muragu. Walk a good path. Yano, goodbye.